views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not reflect the views or endorsement of any entity. Nothing being said on this podcast should be considered as investment advice.
All right, GM, welcome to 100 Proof Live. I'm Kevin O's.
I'm Derek Edwards.
This is the show where we cover all things NFTs, which is, if you're new to the show, non-fungible tokens, which are not fungible. And we have a great show today. Like, what's wrong with it? Explain.
We're like 18 months into the biggest bear ever. If you're just learning about NFTs, you just showed up today.
Yeah, there's some people that are out there. I guarantee there's one person that's like, what the fuck am I watching right now? Okay.
You're probably right.
Derek, Collab+Currency, obviously.
Hello.
Great to have you here. Sam, Proof's Director of Research, alive and well. He was supposed to be here today. Some bad weather got to him. What happened, Sam?
There was like a blizzard out here, blizzard in the mountains of Colorado, and they canceled all flights after noon. So couldn't make it. Going to go to this wedding tomorrow. So I'll be in LA tomorrow, but decided to stay here today and crank some stuff out and then miss the rehearsal dinner. But I'll be in LA tomorrow. But yeah, that sucks.
Well, it is beautiful out here, so you won't need a lot of gear.
He's layered up right now.
He's layered up.
The blizzard is in the house.
We got to talk about gear today too, but we're going to talk about Amanda first. Amanda's here.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, how's it going?
Head of Culture and Community.
Let's go,
AKA Stevie, the one and only.
I'm sorry, Sam. That's a very Friday the 13th thing to happen to you, to get blizzard out. But we'll see you. I guess we weren't going to see you. I'm sorry. Sucks that you're not here.
But hi, everyone. It's Friday the 13th. I didn't even know that.
Friday the 13th.
Didn't realize it either.
Now I'm kind of freaked out.
Spooky season, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a little check-in on the shoe game. You guys were giving me shit when I got here.
I think you win again.
I texted you. Those? I said, bring some crazy shoes.
I was running out of the house. I was like, I can't do it today.
All right. Well, we got these are Vism, which is a Japanese brand. They are.
It's not the cult.
What was the cult?
Do you remember that Hollywood cult? Vivism, whatever.
No,
never mind. Go continue.
No, I'm not a member of any cult. Move on. But I am a huge fan of Japanese sneakers, and these are some kind of funkier looking ones. But right. I do have on a hat, though. By the way, oh, there they are. Look at those beauties.
Those look sweet.
I actually get more hate about these than any other shoe I own.
You have like this. You have this affinity for Japanese streetwear.
I do. I love a good Japanese like streetwear kind of stuff. Cool. This hat is a crazy hat because this is actually, if you can take a look at this one here, this is a hat that we had made right after Moonbird's launched. They goofed up. They did a blacked out Moonbird, and you can barely see it, and half the stitching is broken. So we actually have like 30 of these prototypes. So this is a very early Moonbird hat.
Pretty sweet.
And then I added the chromey squiggles to the jacket. We got a lot of stuff going on here. So I'm fully NFT decked out today.
I've actually been eyeing my vintage jacket, the one that we got on the pod the other night, and I want to add more patches to it.
Dude, we got to add more patches.
It's looking cool. We'll figure out something.
Will you do a Collab+Currency patch? Because that would be fun. We should do that.
I'm putting it in the file cabinet now. Zach, we're gonna do patches. We'll sync later.
Love it. All right. So yes. So later on in today's show, we have a special guest who is artist and designer Peter Saville, who is most known for the album cover for Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures. Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures is such an iconic. You'll know it when you see it. Everybody knows this cover. This is like, I've seen it on more t-shirts over the last couple decades.
There it is.
I mean, it is one of the most badass designs that I've always been a huge fan of. And it is just an honor to have him on the show today. We're doing a collaboration with Pace called CP1919, which is available now. If you're watching live, it closes today. So this is going to be a great interview, and what an honor to have him on as a guest.
It's awesome. It's going to be a fun one.
All right. How's it, Amanda, do you want to check with the audience? What's going on over there?
Yes. Shout out to Mind Rash. I see a lot of people. First of all, a lot of people really want that blacked out Moonbird hat. People are asking to raffle it off. I think we have a couple of them, so you might be able to actually make that happen. And I think that's
100%.
You were kind of teasing it, but I'm like, let's make that happen, right? Let's do it.
Why not?
And then Mind Rash with the shorts reference.
He
loves to see you in the shorts. We all love the shorts.
We were we'll do like a little audience poll later, but like not sure these are the optimal camera angles for wearing shorts on the show. We'll work on that.
We literally, before the show went live, we were like, yeah, there's a lot of crotch shots that are happening on this show. We're just like trying to figure out the right angles here. I'm doing the cross here for the protection.
Nice.
But
for now, apologies and you're welcome.
We're just trying to give Derek his what's the name
Where
of the
are you going with
founder
this?
of the Ethereum?
Vitalik?
His Vitalik moment right now.
Thank
That's
you.
all. We're just trying to get him
Thanks,
memed
guys.
out. Okay, but I just want to shout out Ariel. Ariel from Pace. I'm sorry, Ariel, that you're here and watching us just be a little silly. But it's nice to see you in the comments. It's nice to see Justin here. I see Forrest, our team members. I see Artist Milk. Shout out to all of you guys who are here in the audience. Keep it going with some good comments because I'm gonna be shouting them out throughout the show. Let's go.
Yes. And then also Proof is going to be continuing Peter's tribute later this month, which is called Notes from a Neutron Star. And that drop is it's going to be out in the fall winter series of drops, which is really exciting as well.
Yeah, Notes from a Neutron Star is our sort of homage to Peter Saville and the CP1919 project. It will be minting out, or not minting out, but it will minting begins October 26th. We are super excited about that. And then just a little like kind of recap. I know we said we were going to have a little artist spotlight at the end of the show, but for folks who don't know, CP1919 is again this iconic sort of take on that very iconic album cover. And then Notes from a Neutron Star is sort of Proof's homage to that. We are going to have artists Aaron Penne, Jesse Woolston, and Luke Shannon all have their own sort of reinterpretation of that iconic album. So stay tuned for all of that. You can check it all out on our Proof Twitter and on our website very soon. So really exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. All right. So, Sam, excited to check in with you and get a market update. I know we're not doing those as frequently these days, so it's always nice to have you on Friday to kind of give us an overview of what's been going on throughout the week. What's the hot news? What's the market doing in terms of, all things NFTs? So, what's the latest?
For sure. And one thing to throw in is that we are going to start we call it the daily. I need a new term, but doing Mondays and Wednesdays, and that's we're going to be bringing back the show Monday, Wednesday. It's going to go into the Proof Discord, so you have to be a Moonbirds holder to get that access. But that is something just to look forward to starting on Monday, and then so Monday, Wednesday we'll be doing the used to be daily show, and then Friday 100 Proof. As far as just a quick update on where the market has been this past week, I think when you look at this volume chart, it's pretty much kind of where we've been, just been kind of drudging along for the past month or two at pretty low levels. Then if you jump over to what the PFPs have been doing, it's kind of similar. I think the big downtrend in PFPs has taken a break of sorts. We've been pretty flat for the past 2 weeks, so that's certainly better than the downtrend we've seen. And then if you look over at Art Blocks, again, I talked about this last week. Art Blocks had a huge up move after that first Sotheby's auction with the portfolio for 3 Arrow Capital, and then kind of since then it's just kind of the floor prices have grinded a little bit lower. So that's kind of where we are right now. There is actually a deer with big antlers outside my window right now. That's a separate point. But
like
close? You should be looking at the left, like, wow, there's a deer there. But that's beside the point. Let's talk about art sales. There are a bunch of interesting art sales. I think in the top left here, this looks like collection sales, so not really one of ones, but other than that, you had a ringer which sold for 21 WETH. There are actually two ringers that sold for 21. Cool ringer is certainly below the price we've been seeing. The floor is around 30, so 21 is a bit of a step down, but there were 2 sales at that price. I think the winds of Yawanawa obviously just hugely in focus right now, as everything Refik Anadol is in focus right now. They revealed this week, and there was one really kind of outlier sale, which sold for 20 ETH, which you can see there in the upper right. I also wanted to throw in this Opepin in the lower left. It's from, I believe, the 4th or 5th series. This isn't from the original series, but it really kind of is a hat tip to alien CryptoPunks, and it sold for 30 ETH. That's the 3rd highest Opepin sale ever. And then there's a Subscape here by Matt Delorier for 12 ETH. Just a really just kind of, it's an incredible palette, incredible style there, selling for 12, which is about 4 times the floor. But I think when you see that piece, you can understand why. Just to jump into one-of-one art sales, again, we haven't seen a whole lot of one-of-one sales above 10 ETH, in the past couple weeks. There's one which I put here in the lower left, which is a piece called Elon, God of Memes, by Alpha Centauri Kid for 20 ETH. Kind of interesting story. This is the first piece of art that Alpha Centauri Kid ever put on chain. 3 years ago, and he sent it to a wallet that he thought was Elon's. Turns out that wasn't Elon's wallet, but whoever did get it ended up selling it for 3 ETH.
Oh, wow.
And then it resold this week for 20 ETH. So kind of cool piece of history. He says this was like when I was still in experiment mode. It was called the pre-ACK wallet. So clearly a very different look, but awesome to see that sale for him. And then a couple other pieces. This piece, Dave by Osinachi for 7.2 ETH. The Detective by Harley Davidson for 6.2. This is a really like a murder mystery in an NFT, which they made in conjunction with or working with Transient Labs. And then The Alchemist by Foe for 4.5 ETH. So some cool sales this week. Couple other things just to touch on. Here's the chart for Winds of Yawanawa. Obviously, Refik has been hugely in the news, partially because there were the reveals for Winds of Yawanawa, but then secondly, the piece Unsupervised Machine Hallucinations was donated by Ryan Zurich to the MoMA permanent collection, and that obviously, something I think we're going to talk about. But when that happened, at the reveals, you saw a little bit of a price fall, as often happens on reveals. Then this MoMA taking this piece came into the news, and prices rose again. Last art thing I want to talk about, Gabe Weist. He's been a friend of Proof, been to a few of our events. He's done the Stoics and a bunch of other things. He created this set called The Blame Game, where he made 55 different NFT or 55 different images where he basically was throwing blame for all problems at various people in the ecosystem. Here on the right, you can see Snowfro stole the rainbow. On the left, Xcopy took all the ETH, and all I got was the ability to copy his work. Definitely worth checking these out because they're awesome. 55 of them, and it sold out in 2 minutes. Raised $18,000. Did that through Nifty Gateway. So kind of cool to see interesting stuff sell out even in this market. And then lastly, the Blur. Blur had two announcements. One was from Blur, where they announced that season 2 is going to end on November 20th. So in about a month and a week. It's been a hot topic, for many weeks. So nice to get some clarity there. And then the Blur Foundation, this wasn't actually from Blur, it's from someone who owned Blur token, put out a proposal that Blur start to charge a 1% fee, which includes different fee discounts for people who own a lot of Blur, basically just trying to get a little bit more utility in the Blur token outside of the governance aspect, because with just the governance, we've seen the price go down a fair bit. So that's all from me. A lot of stuff to talk about, but that's it.
It's funny, Sam, when I look at when I look at just what's going on in the ecosystem in general, you see. I was telling you this earlier. I like to use external sources of news that are outside of our bubble, so I can just get a perspective of what the normies think of the crypto space in general. And for me, I was reading a bunch of articles on the FT, the Financial Times, because international publication. And they were covering the FTX trial and everything. And there was this opinion piece about how crypto is filled with scams. And then there's all this other thing. And then I look at what Sam just dropped with all that beautiful art and everything that's going on there. And Refik entering the permanent collection at the MoMA. And you're just like, wow, there are 2 very different narratives going on right now.
Totally.
One of them is like crypto that's just like Mike Tyson's in the ring just giving you body blow after body blow of random shit. And then there's like legitimate, amazing collectible art that's happening that I think is durable, that's here to stay, that I'm excited for. I was looking at those pieces and I'm like, I want that Snowfall stole the rainbow.
Cool.
Like, that's so cool.
It's very cool.
Like, how do we reconcile this?
Yeah, no, I was just talking to, I think it was Carly Riley. I was talking to somebody recently about this, where the incentives of just traditional media to report on what's happening in this space are just off. Like, their audience doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
They have to like get an article out with that day or later that week. So the depth that they can go to like report on news like this is, often very surface level for those that are spending all of their time thinking about it. And these things just have a way of capturing a narrative that isn't just like what we see every day.
Yeah. And in our space, the immediate thing that's happening right now, at least just confined to NFTs, is Blur Season 2. I'm curious, what is your guys' take on Blur Season 2? The announcement that came out, November 20th. What is this going to do to the ecosystem? What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, Sam has been reporting on these seasons since the very beginning. So I think, Sam, why don't you weigh in? You're about as close to this and reporting on this about as anyone in the space. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of different aspects to it. First of all, I think it was important that they at least draw a line in the sand and say when season 2 is going to end. Because for background, a lot of people have been farming Blur token, and right now all they have is points, and those points convert into the Blur token at an unknown date, and that date was unknown. So they really needed to just kind of give clarity so people could build their models around how much risk they wanted to put on in exchange for these points, and ultimately figure out what their points are going to be worth. I think that, so I think it's good that they provided some clarity there. We've seen over the past month or two, as the token has gone down, that, I used to be in a lot of discords with various like Blur token farmers, and those have totally shifted to talking about friend tech or farming other things. So I think the mass movement towards Blur token farming kind of ended a little while ago. So I don't think, I think some of this is as far as the impact on the overall market, I think that a lot of it has already gone away. My view, I've been outspoken about this. I personally think that, what season 2 has really been filled with is incentivizing people to bid on NFTs, create liquidity that way. I think that it's surprisingly turned out to be a real negative for prices for reasons we can go into. I think it's one of the more interesting economic things we've gotten to watch, how paying people to bid on NFTs that they ultimately don't want I think has been quite a negative for prices, along with other things that have been negative for prices. So I think ending that will be good. And then the only thing I'll say on top of that is we don't know what season 3 is going to bring. I have heard kind of different type of ways to short NFTs could be possible. Different ways to go long in different ways could be possible. I think there will be some new kind of tech innovation, NFT-fi innovation that's going to be coming. So I think it is very hard to know the impact until we know what season 3 is going to bring.
One quick last question there. How many Blur, at the end of this season, do we have any sense of how many total tokens are going to be available? And will farmers get those all at once? Meaning, do we have a potential of just everyone dumping into the market and crashing the Blur token?
We don't, they've been pretty clear that it's going to be 300 million tokens or more. So he said on a Spaces once there could be more than 300 million, but 300 million is the amount that we should count on going. And I believe it's going to be all at once. You could see a lot of dumping. But at the same time, this is a well-known date where 300 million token are going to become available. So who knows how the market's going to react? But yes, it is a lot of supply that has potential to flood the market. Today's been a pretty busy day for the Blur token because of the proposal, and it's done about $25 million of volume. So 300 million, it's about 40 million, I guess, $40 million, $45 million of volume. So, it is substantial, and it'll be new supply in the market.
The only thing I would add, and we didn't get a chance to really talk about this, but there was a community proposal this week from a community holder of the token who proposed the ability for the protocol for Blur for exchanging and facilitating a trade between a buyer and a seller, for there to be a 1%, rent-seeking fee that goes back to buying and burning the token, or another mechanism by which that 1% could flow back to token holders. And I think what we haven't seen to date is any articulation from the community or stakeholders or the team on how a token can be used. It's really been meant to be used as an incentive directive to engage with the ecosystem. And I think this was the first proposal by a community member that said, here's how this thing could actually accrete value in the future. And so, who knows if this improvement proposal will get legs or people will talk about it. But I think what it does do is start to paint a picture where this token actually may have some productive use in the future if the community wants it, which may counteract some of the effects of all of these tokens starting to enter, circulating supply. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'm more just articulating these conversations have a way of kind of playing with the rest of the news.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I put in I'm sorry. The foundation tweeted out that I retweeted that, so you can check my Twitter and you can see that proposal. And there's a lot of dialogue in there, and it is interesting. I think for a governance token, there haven't really been any proposals for 8 months. So I think that this holder was basically saying, guys, if we want this token to be a governance token, there has to be a bit more activity here. And then obviously, I think the big question is always should fees come in, and how, because to Derek's point, one would think that with so much supply coming out, perhaps, you'd have some sort of initiative to offset that. Although this was from the community as opposed to Blur itself.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Sam, for your insights there. I know you track this really closely. Great. Let's get to some community questions. Amanda.
Yeah, some people are like, are we still even doing Blur? Alex Gardner said, Blur farmers no more. I think obviously there are some people like Sam that are really kind of watching the market, but I do think that as somebody says, Mind Rash is like, is friend tech still a thing? Because it seems like a lot of people have kind of moved on over there. I think it's really interesting from my point of view. Some of the comments that I saw on that tweet was, number one, I think the person who actually put up that proposal was a VC and might be invested in Blur. So it makes sense that they would want to kind of do that. But, in a governance token, anyone can put up a proposal. So good for them.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it is now all of a sudden, Blur is no longer the zero fee marketplace. If this passes, does that sort of kind of take away from the selling point of Blur in the first place? But let's say it passes. Let's say they start throwing some, shorting tech or some crazy NFT fi stuff in there. Maybe people will think that 1% fee is worth it. So it'll be interesting to see. They're clearly just trying to kind of stay alive, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's worth tracking.
Yeah.
But back to Art,
Yes.
Refik, who of course we love, previous Grails artist. And I was going to ask you, man, if you can look up Rafik's Grail, if you wouldn't mind. I don't have a computer in front of me.
Sure.
And just see what it's trading at. I'm really curious because that's a good way to get one of Rafik's pieces.
The last time I checked, nothing was on sale.
They were all sold out.
They were all like nothing was listed basically.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, but I'll check again.
Cool. So Refik has a piece going into MoMA's permanent collection. It's pretty awesome. It doesn't surprise me though.
Why doesn't it surprise you?
Just because he's so prolific now, and you just see him everywhere. I see him at LAX, I see him in the Sphere in Vegas. He's got great collaborations that he's done in the past. He's just known as just this. His work is so visually stunning that it doesn't surprise me that this is going to be one of the blue chip NFT artists that emerges, and clearly that's the case now.
Yeah, and it comes at a time where we're at a fever pitch for how AI is going to change the world, and it just so happens that we've had an AI artist who's been making work for the better part of a decade, and building and ossifying a community base around his work, the storytelling that he's done, the collaborations that he's done, the partnerships that he's done. It feels like he is just has become this person who this character around this advent of this new technology in many ways from a creative perspective. And so it's awesome to see it. It's I know you guys have partnered with him on Grails. I know he's doing stuff with Sphere right now.
Oh, there's our Grail right there. Look how beautiful that one is.
I refuse to tell you what the floor price is because it is criminal and I want it. So
are you serious?
I won't tell you.
It's too late. The fact that you just said that, people in Discord are going to go, what's the floor on it right now?
Sorry.
She wants it.
1.76.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be picked up in 2 seconds.
What are you doing, guy? It's fine. It's cool.
Is it just one listed? Is there more listed?
1.76, 5 ETH, 14.49.
Okay.
You know what will end up happening? And I'm not going to, this is not a articulation on should people be buying NFTs right now or not. It's more just like a thought. I think some of, what's the difficulty in discovering that this was a Grails piece that Refik did is lending. I mean, there is asymmetry everywhere still in this space.
Yes.
There isn't a place where you can go to see all of Rafik's previous work on chain and see what the relative comps against each other, or see the addition or the supply size or whatever it may be, or the most recently traded from this collection versus that collection.
Great point.
And I think over time those arbs are going to close.
Yes,
right. We're just going to get so much better at display and discovery and being able to parse out rich information on chain into a way that's digestible, and stuff like that. Will just close itself pretty quickly.
One thing I was going to tell everyone out there, I had the pleasure of touring Refik's studio over in Frogtown out here in LA.
Yeah.
Talk about just an amazing place, filled with robots doing pin work, massive displays all over the place. A bunch of AI stuff that he was showing me that really early on. And he is the nicest human, number one, which is he's like a Snowfro type character where you're just like, how can you not love this guy?
Yeah.
And he said to me, and this was a few months ago, let's put it at 90% chance of it happening. But he said, if you want to do a Proof of Moonbirds meetup exclusively for your members, and so that they can come out and actually hang out at the studio and get a personal walkthrough from him.
How to do it.
He was game. So I'm going to work on making that happen, and we'll get that date set up sometime in the future.
There's also a couple of amazing restaurants out there on that side of town.
Yes.
So you guys should do something there. I'll pop over and we should all go eat somewhere cool.
More East Side stuff.
Yeah.
You have a Moonbird?
Right by there.
I have multiple Moonbirds.
Okay, then you're allowed.
Yeah.
Then you're in. All right.
I got a quick question here.
Yeah, shoot.
If it's all right, I just got a quick question kind of on this topic. I think when I think of this year, it's been a bear market for sure. But one positive kind of recurring theme has been museums taking up NFTs.
Yes.
With the CryptoPunks, both in Europe as well as in as well as the US and elsewhere. Beeple sales, in China. And I feel like museums and institutions taking on NFTs has been a big theme.
Christie's.
The other thing is that Christie's and Sotheby's you seem to have NFTs as a top priority. The other thing is that MoMA has been displaying Refik's work for a very long time, maybe not very long time, but for a while. And I think that's quite iconic already. So what do you guys think is the incremental thing of them having a wallet where they own NFTs? Where do you think this moves the needle? Because it's obviously good and exciting news, but where do you specifically think this moves the needle?
For me, and then I'll let Derek and Amanda chime in here. For me, it's just another amazing feather in the cap, and to say like, hey, they're taking this seriously. Like, you don't move something to the permanent collection unless you believe there's actually some permanence to it.
There's a process.
There's a whole process to it.
People debating.
Exactly. And so that to me is just a big win for the entire NFT ecosystem, to think that more NFTs can make it into the permanent collection.
Yeah, I'll add one thought, which is, this is the first blockchain-based digital artwork that MoMA has put into their permanent collection. If you think that this playbook isn't going to get run hundreds of times again over the next decade, you're crazy. Like, they're not going to stop with Refik.
Right.
They're not going to stop with this one object. And this is where, the inevitability of this space is just so obvious at this point. You have the largest exhibitions right now around digital are happening with some of these contemporary institutions. You have museums like LACMA and MoMA taking these things into their permanent collection. You have amazing work that continues to persist, and people are storing value in them and collecting them. And, these collector bases are coming around very specific artists that just, Wins is just continuing to do well on the heels of this. There's just so much energy and electricity around this space that just feels inevitable.
Oh, man.
It's just...
We need bedtime stories with Derek where where I'm about to go to sleep at night and I'm worried and I put my headphones in and it's like, NFTs are going to be just fine, Kevin. Just relax,
really will.
Take a deep breath.
It's like, it's programmed, guys. So it's the writing is on the wall. It's like the genie's out of the bottle. It's on this time frame, on this timeline, it's inevitable.
I just want to thank Derek for always giving me the script so that I have something ready for, Thanksgiving and Christmas with my family.
Exactly.
What are you doing over there again with the NFTs? Listen, Derek says, trust minimized ledgers, digital objects. Let's go,
It's the best.
Culture, all of that.
All right, so let's speaking of NFTs and them entering other worlds, we had a really cool tweet from Tyler Hobbs saying, yes, generative art tattoos are here. And there is to many people, this was a new startup because they just came out of stealth, but they've been around for multiple years figuring out how they can do machine-based tattoos, non-human, meaning like a machine hovers over a body part and then does these really small, micro, high precision tattoos that would be much harder to do by hand. And so what I mean by that is I jumped on a call with Tyler last night, and he described to me that this machine has these sensors that can measure like the dermis layer of the skin, know exactly the depth that they have to penetrate to get the precision of the ink staying and holding. It's actually a lot less painful because you don't have to go as deep, and you get a higher fidelity, higher resolution tattoo that in theory lasts longer and doesn't have as much degradation as a traditional tattoo, all done with this machine. And so this is kind of awesome because it's an idea that you would be able to use an algorithm, apply it to something, and then have the machine do a generative one-of-one tattoo for you, which is a really, really fun idea.
And if you ever want to sell it, you just cut off that limb, you tokenize it, put it in a vault, have a token trading
Stretch
around
the skin around it.
Real world assets to the next level. Let's go.
No, this is awesome. I love stuff like this. So there was a project by Scott Campbell, who's based out here in Los Angeles, called Scapshot. I'm a huge Scott Campbell fan. He actually gave me this tattoo.
Nice.
No way, that's a Scott Campbell.
This is
That's
a Scott
amazing.
Campbell original, and he had a on-chain tattoo project at one point. I think they've taken a bit of a pause, but this idea of being able to marry everything that we love about procedure and randomness and on-chain art with, like these physical manifestations, in this case a tattoo, it just feels like this is where we're going. Scott
had I've known Scott for a few years now, and he had a really cool thing called glory hole. Did you know about glory hole?
Know that.
So it was where you would stick your limb through like a piece of like wood where you couldn't see on the other side, and then he would tattoo whatever he wanted on you.
It was an example of generative art,
right?
And this was back, I think, in like the late '90s, early 2000s.
And exactly. And he had a line of people waiting for a random tattoo. They had no idea what they were going to get until they pulled their arm out or leg out or whatever it may be. Really cool idea. So I spoke with Tyler. He's super excited about this project. He has an algorithm that he can apply specifically to birds, which is in some of the videos here. And he asked me if I wanted to be one of the 3 people that's going to get this tattoo. And I said, yes. And so I'm going to actually get one of the 3, Tyler. He's going to do 3 in total, Tyler Hobbs. And what he does, and he said the process will look like this. I'll fly out to Austin. He'll sit down with me for a day. He'll work on that original bird design with you for an entire day. And then he'll apply his generative algorithm to it to make it kind of change in a unique way. Awesome. And so for me, I already have a hummingbird on my chest because it was my dad's favorite bird when he passed away, and I got that as a symbol to him. One of our Grails artists, Jess Machete, who's amazing, she did the work. The bird I want to get, I think it's a crane. The crane birds. And in the movie Kubo was a fantastic film, by the way. In the movie Kubo, oh my God, you got to watch it. Right. In the movie Kubo, they talk about how cranes in Japanese culture were used to symbolize the carrying of a spirit after death to the afterworld. And so he's going to do a crane for me, and then have something that you can see there. There's a part of his algorithm, how it kind of pixelates it and deteriorates it over multiple images. I'm going to go sit in front of the machine, lay down. We'll film it. We'll have fun with it. And awesome. He's also going to give me a print of it as well. Not an NFT, but a print of it that I can have framed and put up so that my kids can have that and always say, like, this is a tattoo that Dad got by Tyler.
It's amazing.
And so it seems expensive when you look at the design fee, $8,000, all of that, but you're getting like multiple days of Tyler's time dedicated to you to work through this process with you. So I'm just honored that he would think of me to do this.
I mean, to get that Tyler for a day doing design work for you, like this is actually kind of cheap. It looks like the majority of that fee is really, Tyler's opportunity costs and pricing that, and which is totally reasonable. I mean, frankly, it looks like a steal.
I know you won't want to.
I do. I'm throwing in my hat in the ring.
Tyler, we sold you out just like that.
Dog, sorry.
Just proof members alone. But obviously Tyler's such a good human. Love that guy, and always pushing the boundaries in new and exciting ways. So what a fun thing.
Cool.
I have a question from the audience.
Yeah, shoot.
Mind Rash, you're making me saying it. Mind Rash wants to know if Tyler Hobbs also has a glory hole.
Excuse me.
He does not. He is not doing. It is my understanding that he is not doing random generative tattoos just yet. So he is doing. These are all designed with Tyler himself.
Yes.
So, but I actually I mentioned that in the conversation where, all jokes aside about the glory hole, that the idea of sitting down and not knowing what you're going to get, via Tyler, would be crazy.
Totally.
That would be fun. Can you imagine just sitting down and being like, okay, I don't know what algorithm he's going to choose, and it just does something on your arm?
Awesome.
It'd be really, really, really awesome.
I also love that like artists have been playing with these ideas of chance and procedure for a long time, and we now have the technology to automate it. It's just the best.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Very cool. All right. I think that is it for that story. Amanda, any other questions from the audience, or was that pretty much it?
No, I think everyone is super excited.
All good.
Everyone's super excited, and everyone's very, very jealous. I think they think it's a really great idea. Massilla says it's Kubo and the Two Strings is the name of that movie.
Oh, so good, 100%.
Yeah, but that's it. I think it's super exciting. So,
and I will say, if you have not seen that film, please, please, please add it to your list this weekend. It is beautiful, stop motion animation. Ooh. It's more of an adult film. Not adult, but for older people. All right. With that, I'm going to kick things over to Sam to let Sam take it away from here and bring some structure to this conversation. Sam, how you doing?
It's because CT's not here.
Bring
CT
structure.
Can't so much.
Not yet. We're good. We're good. It's been a fun conversation.
Yeah, so Sam, over to you, and we have obviously Peter waiting here to chat about his project, which we're super excited to hear about.
Peter, thank you so much for hopping on this call with us. We really appreciate it.
It's okay. It's actually been very entertaining and very informative for me. I'm kind of enjoying it. I might come back next week.
Let's go.
Well, if you want to come back, we'd love to keep talking to you. But what has
I'm happy Sam, I'm happy just listening. It's like it's interesting just to listen to.
I'm kind of curious for someone kind of with your art and design background, kind of speaking to your insinuation there. What's been your experience with the NFT space and with just as someone who's kind of an observer and new and entering it? How is this? How's that been for you?
Well, I mean, I don't know how long it is now. 2 years, 3 years. It's been like a roller coaster for me. There were really amazing, positive feelings that I had about it at the beginning, because all the work that I've been involved in for, let's say, since the early 90s, so let's say 30 years minimum, has effectively been digital. I mean, everything's been digital since like 1990. And because I am involved in editions and prints and work in kind of sometimes in limited dimensions, the problem of how you kind of contained a digital file, how you authenticated an original, or how you designated an edition, was always impossible until the advent of the token. So when I heard about it at the beginning, it was like wonderful. I mean, it was incredible and like, decades overdue. So in that sense, it was great. I didn't understand I didn't understand the link to cryptocurrencies from a way of actually understanding, and I'm shy about things that I don't actually understand. I think it did kind of bug me a bit that this essentially crucial technology was intrinsically linked to cryptocurrency, which was always going to be a variable, for some time. And I would say that aspect of it still, troubles me, because it kind of it discredits the understanding of the perception of the value of the token itself. And also the fact that it seems to me that people got interested in buying NFTs, even though they didn't really understand what an NFT was, as opposed to buying work which had a token to validate it. So it seemed, like 2 years ago that people there was like a kind of a crazy gold rush of people buying anything that was called an NFT that quite clearly was not going to sustain any value. And then then eventually it all fell off the cliff, and then everybody is like, has a real downer, as the guys were saying just now, there's like a downer on something which is actually essential in our contemporary culture. So it all has to kind of rebalance.
Yeah, I think that idea, I mean, you have just very different communities that have all come together into this NFT movement. And one of the interesting things, they were talking earlier how every headline that we read is about the demise of NFTs. But in the meantime, the top 5 or 6 projects combined to still be worth over $1 billion and do a lot of volume. And I think we're seeing right now that the stuff that has long-term potential is starting to be what really stands out in the space. I'm curious because what's been the process like to revisit the iconic piece from the Joy Division cover?
Yeah.
That
before we just go there, before we leave this, the generative art, is obviously fundamentally digital, and it is actually that work which is able to make an addition, a contribution to the canon of art in general, because that generative work could never have occurred in any other way. So as was being discussed earlier, that is the important contribution to the history of art. And of course, it is no surprise to me to see like MoMA believing that they have to take it. And I think it's very on it of MoMA to realize that they need to recognize this work. So that's that. The generative stuff is really quite extraordinary. And I mean, from revisiting, effectively the Joy Division Unknown Pleasures cover, I mean, it has been such a persistent image and such a persistent icon that one way or another, I get to visit it every week, if not every other week, whether it's in the form of another merchandising proposal from somewhere in the world, or just, being out and seeing somebody in the Unknown Pleasures t-shirt, which just seems to be, kind of everywhere around the world. So, and there's sometimes, there's a lot of, it's out there in the public domain with people doing their own version of it, which is kind of fascinating. And sometimes some very amusing versions, which I like.
On top of that, though, with CP1919 and the open edition piece that you're creating, you actually had to come put your own fingerprint on a new version. So you've seen other people put their fingerprints, but here you're really doing something unique and different with your piece.
So with this new iteration of it, there's always been this reference to the data map diagram as being like a landscape. I mean, it's not a landscape. It's like it's a data map of information, but it's always referred to as a landscape, and people talk about it as a landscape. I mean, it even appears in the movie Alien as a landscape. It is a suggestion of the terrain where they respond to the SOS, or the Mayday call, and the image comes up as a kind of proposed landscape. So it's often seen as a landscape. So I actually thought it was interesting to actually turn it into a landscape. So with my colleagues at a studio called Morph in London, we mapped a virtual landscape over the peaks and troughs of the data file. And so kind of creating this kind of very sort of like a kind of sensual mountain range thing. Now, when looking for how to determine its tonality, because I was seeing it initially as a still image, we started to move the light source around on the virtual model. And as the light source moved, the whole thing kind of came to life in another way. It almost kind of started to breathe. It became quite anthropomorphic in a way. And I was just totally taken by it as a sequence. It's like a motion image sequence, and the effect of the light moving is described as a sweeping sun. So we took this effect title, Sweeping Sun, as the title for the work. And we created with this white version, which is like a polar landscape, as Sweeping Sun white. And then we looked at it in black, like the original Joy Division cover, and that a Sweeping Sun black. And it was like a kind of palette of graphite in black. It was obviously, literally darker, but it had a very different kind of ominous presence. The white one is kind of like I said, like being on the, like Antarctica somewhere. And the black one is like being inside the world somewhere or on some very dark planet. And as it moved in front of me, I just felt really strongly that it needed an audio. It was movie-like, and it needed an audio. And so I knew who to call. And so I called Stephen Morris, who is, was the percussionist, the drummer in Joy Division, and then in New Order. And Stephen is the keeper of records for Joy Division and New Order. Stephen keeps the data, he keeps the information, he keeps the files, he keeps the tapes, he keeps the codes, Stephen keeps everything, and has also worked on some television and film soundtracks. And I said, Stephen, look at this. Could you write an audio for it? And would you like to do that? And he was really keen. He said, I'd love to. The thing that I didn't know, and that was like mind-blowing to me when I heard what Stephen had done, he actually had an audio feed from the actual pulsar. And I said, where did you get that, Stephen? He said, I collect them from different pulsars. So Stephen, being Stephen, has been collecting this scientific data. So Stephen actually had what you could call the audio feed from this pulsar, which happens to be 1,000 light years away. Now that feed is kind of like static, it's like white noise. In reality, it's like, that's what it is. But Stephen had various software programs where apparently he stretched it out. And by stretched out, like a second becomes a week. And this white noise turned into initially something that sounded like strings, and stretched out further, it sounded like voices. So this soundtrack is built from the audio feed of not just a pulsar, but the pulsar from which the data came. And then he went into the archive and found one or two bits of Ian Curtis vocal that had never been, kind of released. They were from a live performance. They had audio recordings from live performances, and he found one or two little bits of Ian's vocal from live performances that he felt would blend in with the soundtrack he'd done. And he created this 2-minute audio loop, which really, it quite upset me the first time I heard it. It enhanced the livingness of the image. The thing, like I said earlier, it was like breathing. Well, it became quite like alive when the audio was with it. And when I heard Ian, it was really weird. It was not singing. It was almost like Ian speaks to you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of quite a weird experience.
One of the things that occurred to me from this is that you built a career around making art for music, but they existed entirely separately. You have albums, and then you build art with that. And here, you're kind of marrying them together into one actual piece.
And those are both. Yeah, they're both very pertinent statements. Yeah, I did covers about how I felt in the now and about the now, and then they came together with music. And this is, and very differently, this is the first time that I have actually worked like 100% collaboratively with a musician, because basically we have a visual piece and an audio piece, which are one and the same. I made a music video once in the early 80s and learned not to do it again. So this actually, for Stephen and I, we kind of noticed when we were doing it, we both commented on it, that this was actually the first time we'd really done something together. And someone had said to me a few weeks ago, like, is that the new album cover? And I said, well, maybe it is. Album covers aren't really needed anymore, except for kind of souvenir hunters and, people who want to buy 12 inches for, kind of vintage purpose or collecting. But from a point of view of actually contemporary work, I actually think that this collaboration between visual and sound seems like entirely logical in this medium. I mean, It's like, why would you not do that?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think we're seeing all the different ways that people are creating digital art and turning that into NFTs and digital collectibles of sorts. But what one of the terms that comes up kind of reading about you is the idea of creative expression without approval. And it's kind of it's an interesting term, creative expression without the world's approval, because I think it's a lot of what current movement and the art movement really likes to express. How did that impact this piece when you were, this is from 1979, 1978. How did this feed into there as well as your future work?
Yeah, I mean, what they're really referring to is graphic art. Well, actually, what they're really referring to is communications design without approval. That is what is unprecedented. So, I trained as a graphic designer because I actually, at the age of 18, wanted to make album covers, because back in the 70s, they were like the principal visual art for my generation and my reality. But obviously, graphics is communications design, and communications design is by default for somebody else. Okay, that's what it is. If you are communicating your own opinions and impressions, then that's art or authorship or whatever. But if you are communicating on behalf of somebody else, then that is a commissioned work, and usually they want to approve it. They want to tell you very clearly what they want to say, and they want to see how you're saying it before they publish it. The extraordinary circumstances around Factory Records was that a handful of us founded a label because we could, because we wanted to. There was no financial remit. There was no commercial objective. It was just after punk had happened, the early years of what was called the new wave. And there were some people making music who didn't have record deals. And we thought it would be nice for them to get something on vinyl, and that would help them get a record deal. So we had a kind of a cooperative, and, no one was being paid, and effectively nobody was in charge. So it was an opportunity for everybody to pursue pop culture the way they felt like it, the way they fantasized about it, the way they believed it should be done. So, the groups went and made the music they wanted to make. In the case of Unknown Pleasures, their producer, Martin Hammett, then produced it the way he wanted to produce it, not the way Joy Division wanted it. But their turn was to play. Martin's turn was to produce. So, he asked them to go away, and he produced the album. For the cover, they gave me for Unknown Pleasures, they gave me that. They'd seen, Bernard Sumner from the group had seen that CPC 1919 diagram in an encyclopedia of astronomy, and they gave it to me. And then it was just down to me to do what I wanted to do with it. And I didn't, I did take it to their manager's house before it went to the printers, and he looked at it and said, "Looks nice," but nobody approved anything. There was no. I was doing it because I wanted to do it, and so I think everyone felt a little bit uncomfortable about approving each other's work. So I did my bit.
I see.
It's just that as Factory continued for the next 13 or 14 years, that became the default modus operandi. So I would make covers and groups made records. And then we would have some,
There's an artist named Dave Krugman right now who sold NFTs a roll of film before he shot them. And now he's going out and he's going to shoot the 10 shots, and the NFT is what the person's going to get. It kind of reminds me of that level of, you are the artist, and I'm going to sign up for that.
Yes, Sam, the unusual thing is at the beginning when, what we were doing was just going to a few hundred or a few thousand people, it was kind of, it seemed less extraordinary. But by the time with New Order, you get to like Blue Monday and like 2 million people buy Blue Monday, this open access to a mass audience was a quite special and unprecedented opportunity for me. I mean, obviously, every artist does as they wish, and it goes somewhere on a wall, and maybe like 10 people see it, maybe 10 million see it. But this was work going directly from me to a very big audience. And I'm still astonished to meet people from, I would say, unexpected parts of the world who got to see, I mean, particularly actually Unknown Pleasures. I'm still amazed that somebody will come up to me and say, this meant something to me when I first saw it in places I did not expect it to reach, and to people I never thought would be interested.
It brings up one topic, and we're running out of time, but it's something that has hit me while we're talking, is this idea. One of the concepts in NFTs right now is called CC0. And it's the idea that you put art out there and then the world will do what it will with it. And you kind of give everyone the permission to do that. And you get the derivatives and the tattoos and the different versions. And it seems like before that concept, that was an extremely big part of what this piece has been, where the world has taken that piece and done what it wanted with it and gotten us to a place where it has all the more presence.
Particularly this piece, particularly that data map from Unknown Pleasures has really gone out. It's like there's a term palimpsest for a blank canvas. It's a thing that people have taken to and interpreted. I think that one of the reasons for that, and one of the reasons it was wonderful for the cover in the first place, is that it's totally open to interpretation. You see it, you think it's a heartbeat, you think it's a sound wave, you think it's like some sort of seismograph. I mean, nobody knows that it's the signal from a pulsar. I mean, how would you know that? It is very emotional, though, and when combined with the title Unknown Pleasures, you project onto it. And an interesting thing about it is that as data, it's kind of sci-fi. And so actually it doesn't date, because data doesn't date. A graph is a graph. And as long as it's not kind of like, letterpress with script lettering on it from the Victorian era, as, anything produced in the 20th century as data, it is what it is. It doesn't date. And so this is one of the amazing things about that diagram. It's there with the title, but, the cover has none of that lettering on it. It's just the diagram, and it never dates. It looks great on a t-shirt. And it's like, it is relatively timeless.
Peter,
I was blown away when I saw when it was created. But I think we are out of time. But I really
I have one quick question. If you guys can hear me,
oh geez,
can you guys hear me? Peter, are you still there?
What I would say, sorry about that. Just to conclude, though, is while this is timeless, the new iteration that you've created is enchanting. It's beautiful, and I think it shows how what was this pulsar idea converts so well into a landscape with that light. It's really beautiful, and everybody. Yeah, I think you have today is the last day where you can buy that NFT. It's $100.
I know. Yeah, the edition is closed today, and it is extraordinarily beautiful. It's extraordinarily beautiful, and the combination, the image and the sound, is like really unique. Unique for Steve and I, unique for Peter Saville and Joy Division. It never happened before, and it is actually really beautiful. I love it. I'm really pleased that we did it. I'm pleased that the NFT domain kind of made it possible to do it.
Yeah, no, and thank you very much for the partnership and everything. But I'll turn it back to Kevin.
Yeah, just one quick question,
Peter. Thanks so
Peter.
much for jumping on.
Yeah, Peter, if we still have you, can you still hear me here?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, Peter, sorry to barge in. Just want to say again, thank you again, and we're very excited. I'll be collecting this piece, and I know a lot of our listeners will as well. So, thank you for doing it. It's amazing. And the one question I had for you, though, that I just wanted to throw out here real quick is, I grew up. I was born in the '70s. I grew up in the kind of '80s and '90s. So for me, this is such an iconic piece that I will forever remember and still see today all over the place. I think of a few other, similar artworks out there, whether it be the Black Flag logo or, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Are there any other kind of contemporaries or other peers that you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, you never remember the obvious when you get asked, but I mean, just like a couple. And also because I'm obviously older than you, so I arrived at some of them earlier. The Warhol Banana, on the Velvet Underground album.
Yes.
And that made a big impression upon me because it clarified and brokered the relationship between music and art. Like pop art was something that I did know about as a teenager because it was something I could understand. And, my older brother introduced me to the Velvet Underground, and, I didn't really appreciate the Velvet Underground at like 15 or 14, but it was entry level for me, and it became profoundly important to me. But it was the combination of Andy Warhol and the Velvet Underground that cover evoked. Actually, it symbolized to me the concurrency of the disciplines. So I always saw art, music, fashion, photography, to some extent, even architecture and obviously film, all in the same way. I traveled freely between the disciplines and made associations freely between the disciplines, and that the art, music, and lifestyle vibe of the Velvet Underground and Warhol's factory was like really influential to me.
Yeah.
And then the first album that I actually had to go out and buy for myself because my older brothers, didn't get it, was Kraftwerk's Autobahn. And in the UK, the cover of Autobahn was just the German, freeway symbol, the Autobahn symbol. And so it's like a blue background with a white Autobahn symbol on it. And because I knew that Kraftwerk had studied at the Music Conservatory and that their very, very modern music included, acknowledged, recognized like the history of classical music, when I listen to Kraftwerk, I kind of hear like modern and ancient. I hear like the whole canon of the awareness of the entire canon of music. It's quite evident when you listen to Kraftwerk that they know about the canon of classical music that led up to the now. And and when I listen to Autobahn, the track, which is this journey, this drive, I would put on a pair of headphones and close my eyes, and I would be like transported across Europe, past kind of power stations and cathedrals, because the music was an arc between modern and historic, and so the symbol, the monochromatic, this really simple symbol of the Autobahn, German Autobahn symbol, came to represent for me like an entire like canon of European, actually what David Bowie refers to as the European canon. Okay, so that was for me all contained within this one little simple symbol, which was unwittingly at the age of 18 my introduction to what is referred to as semiotics. I never heard the term semiotics. I didn't even hear the term when I was at art college at that time. When I later came across the term semiotics and understood what it meant, I realized that Autobahn symbol, and to some extent the Warhol banana before, they were my intro to semiotics, to the fact that the language, which is, or the all of the information that can be contained within a simple symbol.
Wow.
I mean, you can't see a Coca-Cola logo without seeing the entire universe of Coca-Cola,
Sure.
And that was obviously, as somebody going into communications design and art, that was obviously quite an important thing to learn.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And we just to let you know, everyone here on the Proof team and our staff are just absolutely thrilled about this drop, and it's an honor to have you on the show. So
great. It's
really appreciate your time.
It's been really good to do it. I think it's been really great to do it. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Sam, I don't know if you're still with us, but thank you for that interview.
It's a great interview.
Yeah, fantastic job.
Yeah, what an honor to have him on the show. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
It's cool to see two data nerds just kind of get into it, right? That was cool.
Very cool. All right. We have a prompter that is frozen, so I cannot tell you what is coming up next. But I think we're coming to the end of the show. Okay. Mouse says it's time to wrap it up. I think we're done for today. But what an awesome show, you guys.
Yeah,
like today
great.
was like
It was a fun one.
It was just a really fun. We got Derek's legs. We got the whole gamut of things
of
today.
Legs.
Yeah, legs.
No, this was an awesome show. That was one of the best interviews that I've heard in the last 6 months. I mean, his depth of knowledge, his awareness of what's happening, his own response to making work in light of this new movement, but then also being able to reflect and draw these analogies to having made work over the last 50 years.
Yes.
The whole thing was spectacular.
Yeah.
So left an imprint for me for sure.
But you're gonna mint today then.
I'm definitely jumping on.
100%.
And I don't know that much about the drop. It sounds like there's prints for $100, which, I mean, the work is stellar. So I'm definitely gonna take a look.
Fantastic. Well, just want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and obviously special thanks to our special guest that we had on. Such an honor. 100 Proof is live every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, and then we will have some hats. We'll do it next week. Let's do some hats giveaway. We'll bring them in.
Yes.
We'll call some people out of the chat and do some fun hats. And Sam, of course, awesome job with the interview, and thanks for your insights on the stats side as per usual. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.